It's Monday, August 25th, about 4 p.m., and there are some updates in the Emmanuel Haro case that I just want to go over with you. Now, yesterday, footage went viral that showed Jake on the side of the 60 freeway in the Moreno Valley area with tons of detectives, tons of police, and walking inside this canyon off the side of the freeway, searching for remains. Although there was a lot of mixed messages, Emmanuel's remains have not been found. But let's talk about what Jake was doing there. There's, of course, speculation that he is cooperating with the police and that he flipped on Rebecca. He's trying to protect himself, so he was leading them to his remains. But then, of course, nothing was found. Now, there could be three scenarios. One, he truly just does not remember the exact location.
Hello. I know it's a little late, but this Emmanuel Haro stuff, let me rephrase it. This baby Emmanuel story it's been constantly ongoing. I got a couple clips for y'all. With that being said, let's get into the first one.
Baby Emmanuel Haro. This 7-month-old
Shout out to
little
Law
boy
and
is
Crime.
everywhere on the news right now as his parents have been arrested in connection with his murder. But when you look deeper into his father, Jake Haro, and his criminal history, not only is it unsettling, but you ask, given the current allegations, how on earth was he allowed to have custody over this baby? We are exploring his past. We are exploring the system. We are exploring what answers we need to know and whether there was a failure at play. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber.
Okay, here we go.
There is a part of this Emmanuel Haro story that is incredibly confusing and upsetting. There's a lot there, but there is something.
It's not confusing, it's disturbing.
Because as the parents of this missing 7-month-old out of California have now been arrested for his murder, Jake and Rebecca Haro, a week after he disappeared and they first claimed he was kidnapped, when you look at the history, you wonder if these allegations that they are now facing, assuming they're true, they're innocent until proven guilty, but assuming they're true, how is it possible that these two were allowed to even be around Emmanuel? How did they even have custody? What do I mean?
Yes,
Jake Haro
how?
apparently pled guilty in 2023 to child cruelty connected to a 2018 incident with a baby girl. Now, some outlets have reported this was Emmanuel's older half-sister from a different relationship with a woman named Vanessa. And this 10-week-old sustained incredibly serious injuries, including broken bones, under Jake's care. In fact, according to outlet VVNG and journalist Abby Blabby, who spoke to News Nation's Banfield, Vanessa's cousin, who adopted this little girl, revealed even more details. That it was believed she wouldn't even live a week, that she was, quote, practically killed, that she can't talk, she can't walk, she's blind because of this attack. That's what's being reported. And at the time, Jake Haro originally told authorities that he just accidentally dropped the baby. According to the Daily Breeze, officials at the hospital told police that this little girl had a, quote, acute fractured rib, healing fractures of 6 ribs, a skull fracture, a brain hemorrhage, swelling of the neck, and a healing fractured leg bone. This is what a police affidavit apparently reads. The combination of the above findings in a premobile infant, in the absence of a plausible history of significant trauma to explain the injuries, is indicative of abuse, head trauma, child physical abuse, and nutritional neglect. That's what one officer wrote, quoting a doctor. Apparently, Jake Haro tried to blame his wife at the time, again, Vanessa, even claiming there was a search on her iPad, the iPad web browser, that said, how to feed a baby with broken ribs. But in the end, he and Vanessa, at the time, they pleaded guilty. And it's being reported as well.
They had no choice but to be guilty.
Was sentenced to just 6 months in jail through a work release program,
bullshit.
A 4-year suspended sentence, and was ordered to attend the child abuse treatment program. Now, Abby Blabby said that this little girl's adoptive mother said before the arrest of Jake and Rebecca in Emmanuel's case, quote, she feels that justice wasn't served the first time. She said that when she first heard the news story, it just broke her to pieces. She immediately had a feeling, as I feel most people have, the story just doesn't really make very much sense. And I'll tell you what, there is more. VVNG reporting that this cousin also adopted Jake Haro's son, who was apparently born with fetal alcohol syndrome, and that Vanessa had reportedly been cited for DUIs while she was pregnant. Oh, by the way, it's being reported by outlets like NBC that before Jake and Rebecca were arrested, but after the search was on for baby Emmanuel, their other 2-year-old child was taken from the home by Riverside County Child Protective Services. Was that in relation to some alleged abuse? Was that in relation to the fact that the couple were about to be arrested for Emmanuel's murder? It's unclear. By the way, little side note, we have been super busy here trying to update you on Sidebar all summer long about all of these breaking stories, and the last thing I want to do is be thinking about something else, right? I want to focus on my job here. I want to focus on these stories. I want to focus on reporting. And like, for example, I don't want to be thinking about my phone bill. I don't want to be thinking about my bloated wireless charges. So let me tell you real quick about Mint Mobile. With our sponsor, Mint Mobile, you can get the same great coverage and speed that you're used to, but for a fraction of the price. Seriously, all of Mint's plans come with high-speed data, unlimited talk and text, and it's delivered on the nation's largest 5G network, just without all the surprise inflated costs. Plus, right now, Mint Mobile is running a summer promo. 3 months of unlimited premium wireless service for just $15 a month. So while your friends are sweating over data overages and surprise charges, you've got high-speed data, unlimited talk and text, zero headaches, and if you think switch it over is complicated, it's really not. Mint knows their customers have their whole lives stored on their phones, so they make it ridiculously easy to switch over. You can use your same phone, keep your same number, bring all your contacts with you. That's it. Just swap out your old SIM for the Mint SIM and you're good to go. It's reliable, it's fast, it can save you hundreds once you make the switch from your old provider. And some of my colleagues here at Long Crime, they have switched to Mint Mobile users and they say the quality, the ease, can't be beat. This year, skip breaking a sweat, breaking the bank, get this new customer offer and your 3-month unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month at mintmobile.com/sidebar. That's mintmobile.com/sidebar. $45 upfront payment is required. That's equivalent to $15 a month. There's a limited time customer offer for the first 3 months only. The speeds may slow above 35 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Taxes and fees are extra, and see Mint Mobile for details. Oh, and one more thing. It's being reported that Jake was not only on probation for the 2023 case, but he was facing weapons possession charges. Yeah, he had a hearing next month. That's what was set for the schedule. According to the New York Post, we are talking about charges of owning or possessing a firearm and ammunition as a, quote, convicted felon and narcotic addict. He's apparently pleaded not guilty to both of those new charges. And while not directly related, how could I not also mention that it is also being reported that Rebecca Haro's brother, James Boozhausen, is currently sitting in prison, serving at least 50 years for the murder of his 27-year-old girlfriend, Jalen Amanda Keith, back in 2017. Now, obviously not directly relevant or connected, but I gotta say, disturbing, right? All of this is very disturbing. And while there is clearly a lot that we do not know, what is clear is our questions. If they did this to baby Emmanuel, if these allegations are true, how were they permitted to care for him and this 2-year-old in the first place? Because what is happening in this case? Before Jake and 41-year-old Rebecca Haro were arrested by San Bernardino County Sheriff's detectives, Rebecca had said that Emmanuel was kidnapped. She claimed they were outside this Big Five sporting goods store on August 14th, about 20 miles from their home.
Didn't nobody believe that
she was
story.
Changing Emmanuel's diaper and was suddenly knocked unconscious by some unknown mystery man. And when she awoke, Emmanuel was gone.
Nobody
KTLA
believed that
She had a
story.
black eye. Jake and the couple's 2 other children had been in a park for their older son's football practice. There was this massive search that had been conducted to find baby Emmanuel. And it soon was being reported that there appeared to be inconsistencies in Rebecca's story, including the fact that KTLA reported there was no witnesses to this attack, with it being reported that authorities issued search warrants for the couple's home,
also
their cell
reported
phones, that authorities reviewed surveillance footage in the case, and also when it came out that there might be holes in her story, Rebecca decided no longer to speak with officials. This is according to the sheriff's department. Oh, and let's not forget, they both made pleas through the media for their son to be returned. Jake saying, whoever took my son, please return him. We just want him back. We won't do anything to you. Just give us our son. Keep him safe. Don't hurt him. Make sure you feed him and change him. Rebecca saying, if you know anything, please come forward to take him to the cops. Please come and bring my son back. I'm begging you. Again, they're innocent until proven guilty, but you can see why this is alarming. And now they're potentially facing murder charges. And there is a desperate search to find baby Emmanuel's body. And in fact, in a chilling twist, ABC 7 reporting that on Sunday, Jake was seen with law enforcement and cadaver dogs in a remote field in Moreno Valley, sporting an orange prison jumpsuit. However, the San Bernardino Sheriff's Office stated the search has concluded and Emmanuel was not located. The investigation to find Emmanuel continues. Okay, so now I want to bring on attorney Joe Richardson to talk about this, not only because I love having Joe on and he's a brilliant legal mind, but also I'm trying to understand, given everything that we have laid out, how is it possible that Jake and Rebecca were allowed to have custody and the care of baby Emmanuel and this 2-year-old? So, Joe, great to see you. Thanks for coming on. I laid it all out. How were they allowed to do this? How were they allowed to have the care and custody of baby Emmanuel?
Well, it's really interesting. You know, we've gone back, taken a look, and tried to piece it together. When you're talking about CPS actually taking kids, there has to be a court order. Typically, that's connected to a report. There's some kind of report made. There's a court order taking the kids out within 72 hours. There's a hearing where the court looks over evidence to see if the kids were rightfully taken away and if they should continue to be taken away and that type of thing. So going back to go forward, there's a question as to, there's certainly a moral argument here, like, given what had happened with some of these other kids, given the previous conviction, you know, there's some questions related to that. But what I don't see, Jesse, I do not see any reports, CPS reports, considerations,
Hold on, y'all.
hearings, etc., related to these 2 children. Even his conviction, Mr. Heroes, do you have a thing there?
Well, here's the point. Yeah. I agree with you. We haven't been able to find anything like that. I agree with the majority of cases, right? That you would need some sort of substantiated case of child abuse to remove a child or even start an investigation, right? But shouldn't it be CPS's role to say, hey, listen, we got a problem here. We're looking at this guy who has a record with respect to another child. We have a situation where if the reporting is true, there was another child that was born with fetal alcohol syndrome. Can't we just keep a careful eye, right? Unless there was some exigent circumstances where there was an emergency situation where they can come in even without the court getting involved and remove a child. Putting that aside, could they start an investigation on their own, or do they need someone to file a report? They can't automatically do it on their own purely based on the fact of someone's criminal history. They just can't do that. They're limited.
It's not clear that they can do it on their own, but someone can make a report. And one thing about the CPSs of the world, including CPS itself, is that they have to investigate everything that they hear, regardless of how ridiculous it might sound or ridiculous it might seem. So circling back here, it wouldn't seem ridiculous that folks ought to keep an eye on this family, right? So if someone had said something, now to see the area, and this is a geographical area that I'm very familiar with because it's in the next town or 2 over from us, the area looks kind of desolate. It looks like kind of like a big space of property, etc. So a lot of the things that are going on there might be things that people aren't necessarily witnessing because you're not a stone's throw always from your next door neighbor. So maybe there's a less likely to be a report from the next door neighbor, but I understand the concern here, yeah.
Let me ask you this, okay? They have been arrested, right? By all accounts, they're going to be charged with murder. There will be an investigation, not only into this incident, but what was happening maybe in the months leading up to this, right? And look, they're innocent until proven guilty. Having said that, if it should come out that there was evidence of abuse before what's going on with Emmanuel, if there was episodes of abuse and it wasn't properly investigated or wasn't properly reported to CPS, what happens then? Because we could have a scenario, sure, right? We can have a scenario where, yes, there is a very troubling criminal history, but there was no evidence of abuse leading up to what happened or allegedly happened to Emmanuel, right? And that may be, you know what, CPS, there was nothing for them to do. But if it should come out during the course of this investigation that there were significant red flags, what happens then?
Well, it's an interesting question because what you have left, I mean, we're presuming that this youngest child is no longer with us. You know, he has been helping them walk through an area. He had on his jumpsuit the other day. He's walking through an area called Moreno Valley, which is close by. So the aggrieved party, as it were, that's still with us is the 2-year-old. So the question becomes, is there an advocate for the 2-year-old such that the 2-year-old is damaged because of what CPS didn't do. So that's kind of what the question becomes. And if something is found out, maybe a report wasn't followed up on. Maybe there were so many reports that people started that CPS desensitized them, and that kind of thing. Okay, if there's something there, then maybe if that child has an advocate, something can happen and be brought to bear related to the child itself. Does it create a larger discussion? Because now, you and Jesse, we've dealt with a couple of these in Southern California recently, where there are people that with particular pasts that end up actually doing things that their past might have indicated that they may have done, right? Is that give us a larger discussion related to accountability of the CPSs of the world, et cetera. And so that's something that remains to be seen. That's something that ought to happen, probably, because it seems like this is not so far afield that this couldn't have happened. But hopefully it leads to a larger discussion.
Why was the 2-year-old removed? Was there a question that this 2-year-old was removed because of what was happening in the investigation of Emmanuel, and they knew there was going to be an arrest and they want to remove the child beforehand? Or did something happen where they said CPS has to come in and we need to remove this child? That's an interesting question, because we don't have that answer about why this 2-year-old was removed before these parents' arrests.
The timing suggests that it was related to the investigation, right? If you talk about having a child that has disappeared, I got beat up, and that's a pretty open area right there on Ukaiba Boulevard at Big Five. There's video cameras all over the place, and this woman's story doesn't pan out, then instantly you have a notion that this child may be in danger. You look at the guy's past as well, if you hadn't before, but that's that larger question, and you see that something in the milk's not white, and therefore, so you would absolutely take the 2-year-old. So my sense is that them taking the 2-year-old, CPS taking the 2-year-old, coincides with the investigation and all of the red flags that came up based on how they answered their questions, how they lawyered up once the inconsistencies were shown. But, unfortunately, that didn't happen before then.
There was something that Haro's lawyer in the 2023 child abuse case said that kind of struck me. So his attorney, Vincent Hughes, told the LA Times, this is before the couple's arrest, quote, "Jake has a criminal past. We're not running from that. But the facts of that case are a lot different than the facts of this case. And one crime doesn't mean that you've committed every other crime known to man, especially to take your own child." Now, obviously, he's referring again to what the parents were being accused of here. But it did make me wonder, okay, is that another reason why there wasn't a legal avenue to remove these children? Because you and I both know, and let's explain it to the viewers, right? Parents have legal rights. They have legal rights to parent. They have a constitutional right, isn't it a due process right, to parent their children, and to terminate those parental rights is quite a high burden. And there seems to be, on the part of CPS, I don't care which state you look at, there seems to be an emphasis on trying to unify the family or reunify the family as opposed to keeping children separate from their parents. Am I right about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And because you can't have your children taken away without due process. So you need a court order to begin with. And then within 72 hours, you actually need a hearing to see if that status quo will be kept. And frankly, more often than not, the law lends toward parents being reunited. And when someone is determined to offend in that regard, it can be a problem. You want to protect kids as much as possible, but theoretically, in a perfect world, the kids are supposed to be safest with their parents. So what do? Do you go door to door and say, I don't like how you look, let me take your kids? No, the law doesn't allow you to do that from a due process standpoint. And so this is one of those unfortunate situations where there didn't seem to be, and there wasn't, based on what it is I saw, any restrictions related to kids from the previous case. There's no restrictions related to that, and there's some different claims related to that. It is a different kind of case in a way, but the guy didn't get a lot of time. He got 180 days, 179 of which was work furlough. He went to jail for 1 day. He made bail, et cetera, and in a crime you could get 2, 4, or 6 years, he got 6 months. And so there's an argument that even the law didn't take it as seriously as they needed to, but there was no restriction. You read the restrictions, it has to do with him not having a weapon, with him staying away from someone that's initialed, and I don't know if that was that particular kid or whatever else, the particular one that was harmed at that time, but no restrictions about not having other kids. And by the way, the 7-month-old wasn't alive at the time that this was played out, and the 2-year-old may have just been born, if that, but it was like June 2023. So you have a lot figuring in here, but literally, what the attorney is right about, you don't want him to be right about it, but what he's right about is that these were two different cases, and it does look like there was no connection at all with how they would be judged as it pertains to this situation based on the previous one, because there were no particular restrictions.
And just to add to that, I kind of looked up California law on this about when a juvenile becomes a dependent of the juvenile court, right? When can custody be taken away? There's a number of different categories, right? You talk about physical harm, abuse, neglect, not providing care, emotional harm, but it is very specific and also lays out what are not grounds for dependency. So, for example, even if the parents were homeless, that wouldn't be enough, or there was poverty, that wouldn't be enough, or their religious beliefs alone wouldn't qualify. If they choose to be, do more spiritual treatment than medical treatment, that wouldn't be enough to remove a child. And it, again, I think it emphasizes that idea of a high burden, and whether or not the legislature needs to get involved and change that, and whether or not it gives more resources and avenues for Child Protective Services to get involved. But you also run into that risk of the state getting involved in parents, raising their children how they want to raise their children. So it kind of adds a complicating factor to this. And it does become a question when you look at, as I mentioned before, Jake Haro has these weapons possession charges that he was supposed to go to a hearing for. Again, people will look at this and say there needs to be a change. Have you seen that before? Have you seen the legislature changing the law on this regarding the ability of what CPS can do?
It can happen, and the question becomes, unfortunately, and to your point, you make a valid point in terms of the idea that kids can be in some pretty dire straits, and that's not going to trump what amounts to parents' due process rights, and their generally unfettered right to be parents and continue to be parents, even if they're weird parents, even if they're not particularly prosperous parents, even if they're impoverished parents, even if they're unusual parents, right? Unfortunately, it takes usually something like this in order for there to be a different look and say, we've got to close this up a bit. Most of the time when you're dealing with constitutional rights, you're always balancing rights with this larger societal interest. And I think one of those societal interests could be the safety of children, right? And based on that, maybe it gives you the opportunity to do something that maybe closes a loophole a little bit. Maybe prescribes a bit more punishment. Maybe someone that's convicted of a certain crime like this 273A doesn't get to have children, or there has to be monitoring if there are other children within X number of years within the probation period. Maybe there's certain other things that can be done that can pass constitutional muster, but unfortunately, we often don't have the discussion until something like this happens.
And doesn't it feel that law enforcement is trying to get more information from these parents? What do I mean by that? So it was reported, about this search on Sunday, this effort to possibly find, baby Emmanuel's remains. They're facing murder charges. It's this idea of inconsistent stories. I wonder if what's happening behind the scenes is, I don't know if there's necessarily some sort of deal being worked out, but the idea is, tell us what you know right now, the whole story, everything that happened, and once we have that information, and again, look, they're innocent until proven guilty, but assuming the worst here, once we have that information, then it becomes clear whether or not this could have been prevented, right? Because that seems to be the next logical step in a case like this.
Yeah, a couple of things. First of all, it's interesting. This Riverside, San Bernardino County area have a whole lot of open space, etc. And Moreno Valley is a place, it's a lot of canyons, a lot of windy roads, etc. It could literally be anywhere. And so it's interesting to know that they have him out there in his jumpsuit in a particular place. And that's probably because he told them that that's a place to be. What would the deal be here? Well, when he couldn't get the death penalty, maybe they say, if the woman was made to kind of go along. I mean, she's sitting there with a black eye. She made to go along. Maybe she gets 40 years and he gets life without possibility because somebody's going to jail for life. Okay, maybe that's the deal because there's some acknowledgement, related to that. But maybe this creates an opportunity for us to do something that maybe we weren't thinking of before. Hopefully, it allows us to go in a direction and really get things right here if we figure out that there's something that could have been done based on them understanding the story. Now we understand the story. Here's where the system stopped, and perhaps this is where the legislature can step in. This is where people that are advocates can step in. Advocates for children can step in to say if X, Y, or Z had happened, which can pass constitutional muster, then we would have been in a better situation. The previous convictions here was a great red light that could have showed us that there needs to be some kind of restrictions on any involvement with people under the age of 18 at all, and then maybe we can do something about that. So the more we know, the more we could do.
Now, I'm just going to put this out there because at the time of this recording, Emmanuel Haro's remains body have not been found. Anybody with information is encouraged to contact authorities. And I'm just going to put this up there, the description of this little boy that was circulating these past several days. He is approximately 24 inches tall, weighs around 21 pounds, brown hair, brown eyes, cross-eyed, according to authorities. And he was last seen wearing a black Nike onesie. This is a very distressing case, a very chilling case. Joe Richardson, thank you so much for coming on, talking about this kind of unique aspect to it, because I'm sure as people look into this, they will have questions about it, but we obviously don't have all the answers, but just, giving people something to think about as we move forward. Joe Richardson, thank you so much.
Thanks, Jesse, always. Take care.
That's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts.
And that's it. What up, y'all? I got another clip for y'all. Give me 1 second. Well, actually, I got 3 clips, but I'm gonna put 2 clips into one. I'm saying, let me keep them separate.
I went to polygraph school back in 2009. Since then,
and shout out to Duty Ron for this.
The majority of the polygraphs that I conduct now are criminal defense polygraphs, trying to help people prove that they're innocent of whatever they're being accused of. It's not unusual for somebody who's represented by an attorney to decline taking a polygraph. Doesn't mean that they're not going to take one. The attorney may hire some.
Pay attention. Jake Haro and Rebecca Haro refuse polygraphs. Pay attention.
Somebody like me to do a polygraph to see how they do. If they fail, they never tell anybody that they took a polygraph. That's done quite frequently. I've done probably 3 with the same circumstances over the past month that fit that category. It is used in a lot of cases where somebody, they come forward and they say, hey, I had nothing to do with this crime. And in this case, I had nothing to do with the disappearance of my child. I want to prove myself innocent. I want to show the world that I had nothing to do with this, help me find my kid, that they would submit to a polygraph. But again, the male individual has got prior contacts with law enforcement, so the reason why he's lawyered up.
We're in a situation here where there's so many unanswered questions, but as it pertains to polygraphs, people always say, oh, polygraphs suck. They're not accurate, they don't tell the story. How accurate are these things? I know it's a matter of who's giving it, right? It's a lot to do with the examiner, correct?
It has a lot to do with the examiner. I have 2 cases right now, one of which I have a court order which will allow me to bring my polygraph equipment into Rikers Island and conduct a polygraph. Probably going to get that done over the next week or so. I have another one that I'm waiting for the judge to authorize it. I try to explain to people all the time. They'll ask me, well, how accurate is the polygraph? Why isn't it allowed in court? Is it allowed in court? The standard answer is that it's not allowed in court. That's the standard answer. But I've testified in court regarding polygraph. I know other cases which have been allowed in federal court regarding polygraphs. So it's really up to the judge whether or not the judge will allow it. Most of the time, the prosecutor or the district attorney's office will look at it. They're going to look at the examiner to see what their qualifications are, to make sure that they're legitimate and they have an expertise in polygraph. They're going to take that, they're going to look at the entire polygraph process. Everything gets wrapped up, all my charts, audio, video, everything gets sent to the district attorney's office or the prosecutor. They will do a quality control of it. They'll have a legitimate polygraph examiner take a look at it to make sure things were done correctly, to make sure that the question formulation was correct, all of the proper protocols were followed. Once that's done, a lot of times in cases that I've been involved in, several have been robbery cases where the police just happened to grab the wrong kid. And they were identified by the victim mis-ID'd these individuals, and they just happened to say it was them and it wasn't. In two separate cases that I did in Queens, both robbery cases, both of these cases, the district attorney's office deferred prosecution.
Because of the polygraph.
They looked at the polygraph. Now, don't get me wrong. They kind of knew something didn't smell right with the case.
Right.
And it was a case, both of these cases were victim identification cases.
Right,
so
right.
with victim identification cases, they can be off sometimes. And in these cases, it didn't smell right to the DA, so they used the polygraph and deferred prosecution on both of those cases.
Let me ask you something, Tim, as it pertains to the mother, Rebecca. If they were to administer a polygraph in a situation where they wanted to just see if her story was legit, like, hey, to ascertain if this story was a conjured up story or if this kid was missing for days in the past, because as we know in these cases, the families, a lot of these times, they make up a story. We don't know if this story was just like the day that he both decided, hey, let's tell the story. We can't go with this farce anymore. I think it's just important that people understand is that sometimes police in these preliminary investigations want to put somebody under a polygraph just to actually corner them and say, hey, you failed the polygraph when we asked you if this incident actually happened and that your son was abducted on this day in question. Just didn't even get to that point, you know?
Well, we know time doesn't matter with the polygraph, right? So it doesn't matter how much time has passed. I did a polygraph on a homicide case that was over 30 years old. I went up to a state facility, did the polygraph, the individual failed. So time is not going to make a difference, and it's done all of the time. Local jurisdictions do it, federal agencies do it, FBI does it. They will evict them in or complain it in just to verify the story. Hey, we just want to make sure everything's up and what you're saying true. Just want to verify.
Yeah.
You have a way of talking people into doing it. It's pretty smooth. But once they lawyer up,
it's a wrap.
The lawyer's going to say no. At the time, the lawyer's going to say no. I had lawyers call me up and say, hey, they want to do a polygraph. I want you to do one first. Okay? The lawyer wants to know if his client is guilty or not. Yeah. So I've done a polygraph, and lo and behold, the individual passed the polygraph, and then they went to the police department, and they did a polygraph, and they passed my polygraph. They're passing the police department's polygraph. Law enforcement, they do use polygraph as a tool. It's used as a tool all of the time to help them with these cases to verify the information. Now, keep in mind, in this case, right, it is possible that she had nothing to do with the crime or the disappearance.
And he did.
And he did.
And was using her and her story presented to the media. Oh, look, she's the victim. She got beat up. When in fact, he probably beat the shit out of her and, forbid, killed his son. Again, nobody knows at this point.
Don't know.
Exactly. And we're done. What up, y'all? I have another video here from the Dynamic Reason channel. Let's get into it.
What is going on, guys? I'm Steve. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another 7 o'clock premiere. If it's your first time stopping by the channel, hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you won't regret it. You're a returning subscriber. As always, guys, welcome back, and I do appreciate the support. Guys, damn, I forgot to turn my sign on. But anyway, guys, listen. We've been covering this story about missing toddler from Yucaipa, California, Emmanuel Haro. Now, police are looking and searching for what they presume as a child that has long since passed. Now, it's a lot of questions remaining. These people go to court tomorrow, and it'll be interesting, the details that they release to the public. Now, there's a lot of stuff swirling, especially yesterday with, Friday they were locked up. Today's Monday. Friday they were locked up. Yesterday, Jake Haro was seen up in the hillside terrain on the side of a highway with detectives. They had people searching the countryside, and he was out there. We still don't know what that was about. All we can do is guess. But there's one thing we don't have to guess about at all, or even think a possibility of it being not true. And that being, this woman here is a dumbass. For real. Rebecca Haro, the mother of Emmanuel Haro, is a dumbass. And what she's doing is incriminating her, and she don't even know. I don't know who's guiding this woman and giving her advice, but she need to stop, because at the end of the day, she might be left holding the bag for this.
Damn
and you
right.
understand what I say when I explain this. But what I'm talking about right now, ladies and gentlemen, is this woman had a jail interview yesterday and spoke to reporters, or a reporter. And some of the stuff she said is stupid. And it's a big difference with what she's doing and what they show Jake out there doing. And I think, honestly, all of this is planned. Remember, he's been in this position before. She hasn't. And if she keep this up, she gonna wind up being smoked for her role in the disappearance of said child. She's in court right now saying she's sticking to the story, and everything she said was true. Somebody knocked her out, mollywopped her, and took the baby. Whereas all of the...
How you gonna stick to a story that people already know is bullshit? The story has been scientifically proven that you're a fucking liar.
Evidence points directly that that's a lie.
Facts. She's a damn liar.
You know what I mean? I'm not even gonna tell y'all about it. Look at the news article about this interview that she supposedly had, and look how stupid she's making herself. She gonna get smoked. Look.
We are also following developing news from the Inland Empire, where the search continues for 7-month-old Emmanuel Haro, who is presumed dead. Investigators say the baby's parents faked his kidnapping. KTLA 5's Julian Smuckler live in San Bernardino with the very latest in this investigation. Good morning.
Good morning, Lou. Yeah, major developments in just the past 24 hours for that search for 7-month-old Emmanuel. Now, what we could tell you is that his father was spotted over the weekend searching for his body, while his mother gave her first jailhouse interview, maintaining her innocence and standing by her story, saying she's committed to finding her son. Now, Rebecca and Jake Haro, they were arrested at their home in Cabazon on Friday on suspicion of murder with malice. They arrested the couple 8 days after the baby's mother reported that Emmanuel had been stolen from her, all while she was changing his diaper in the parking lot of a Big Five. But in a jailhouse interview with a Southern California News Group reporter yesterday, she maintained her innocence despite law enforcement accusing the couple of killing their son. She reportedly said she isn't giving up on her baby and that she wished she were out searching for him. She also allegedly shook her head when asked about rumors that days before she reported the kidnapping, she went to the Big Five, told employees that her car was burglarized, and asked whether the business had surveillance cameras. Now, her husband Jake also made headlines over the weekend. He was spotted wearing an orange jumpsuit yesterday looking for his missing baby. He was searching a remote area in Moreno Valley with detectives. It is still unclear what led them there, given it's about 10 miles south of where Emmanuel was first reported missing. But after an hours-long search yesterday, investigators say Emmanuel's body still has not been found. Now, the couple is standing by their story of what exactly happened to their baby, and they're expected to make their first court appearance tomorrow at the Riverside Hall of Justice. And back out here live, we are still waiting to find out if there's going to be another search today and where investigators are focusing on. Of course, very little details behind the scenes as to why they were searching that area just yesterday. Also, a lot of people are wondering, why is Rebecca not involved to the search. So we are still here outside the sheriff's office, pressing to get some of those answers for you. And the moment we do, we will let you know. But reporting live from the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Office, Jillian Smuggler, KTLA 5 News.
Ain't that some shit? Ain't that some shit? Now, some of y'all that been following a lot of these crimes with these babies being done dirty, right? Who does she remind you of? Tell me she do not give off Jen Soto vibes. Seriously, Jen Soto vibes. You sticking by this guy? Saying all this dumb stuff? You're doing jailhouse interviews like the rest of those other whack jobs in high-profile case that want to get their voice, and it never ends well. Why are you even talking? Who's your defense? And are they counseling you? Are you stupid or what? Now, I want you to watch. In that story, they said this. Both parents are sticking to the story. No, they not, because Jake got pulled out of jail. If she's the weaker vessel and they want to put the squeeze on her because they think he did it, why did he get out and she didn't? Y'all catch that? See, remember, they have two different representations, two different defenses. And you know,
two different lawyers.
We've seen in the media and from out his own mouth. Jake Haro's lawyer is skeevy than a motherfucker. Watch this shit get flipped on her. She's locked up. They pulling him out for the outside interviews and showing him places, and he's walking around like he's looking for his son. What you think the defense of the lawyer's gonna be? Because they say Jake confessed. We ain't heard no real, besides the media saying Jake confessed, we ain't heard nothing yet. They ain't even had a press conference on this.
Talk about it.
I'm telling you, Jake, the last time he got caught up in this type of stuff in 2018, he put the blame on the girl, and they both took the hit. Same charge.
Yep.
Remember? He got experience with his lawyer lying and all this other stuff. He got experience in playing this game. She don't. She in the thing talking to the press. I stick to my story. I want to be out there looking for my baby. I want to be out there searching for my baby. I will not.
If she don't shut the F-U-C-K up, bitch, fuck you. Lying asshole.
Stop when you ain't got no goddamn choice because you're in a 6x9 or 9x6 or 8x12, whatever the hell they call themselves nowadays. You look stupid. Shut the fuck up, sit there, gather dust till it's still time to go to court or take a goddamn deal. People are stupid.
Facts.
Who's coaching this chick? They talking about the black eye on her face is 2 weeks old. You saw her in the damn videos.
With them fake ass tears. Bitch,
Someone
fuck
came behind me and said, "Hola." You forgot the other part of that. They also said Buenas noches and knocked you the fuck out. And you know who it was. It was Jake that did that shit. He knocked your ass out in the house. How your big ass get punched in the face, but your hair was done in the interview right after when the news rushed over there to you? You fell on the ground, your big ass ain't bumped your head, split that shit open, you got thin hair. So that shit, come on, man. Come on, y'all. Come on. She is stupid. I don't know who's telling her. First thing they do when you go to jail, whenever you go to jail, people tell you keep your mouth shut. You're
Damn
a lawyer,
right.
Don't talk to nobody about the case. Don't talk to anybody. The media is the worst people to talk to. You ain't even been in jail 48 hours. Here you go, running your goddamn mouth, professing your innocence, and looking stupid as hell in the process. What's wrong with it? He's out there searching for the baby. Remember, we all believing that Jake is the one that killed him. And I still believe that. But think about this. The way he's doing this and setting it up, his lawyer could be like, yo, they pulled Jake to go look for the baby. For all we know, she could have took the baby and dropped the baby off somewhere, defending him because she knows about his priors. In the interview, she said she knew about his past, but you married him anyway and still had kids vying. See what I'm saying? This is no different than somebody having a tiger, a baby tiger cub or a lion, and they play around with the tiger, then later on it bites them in the ass, and then they sit around and go, what the fuck happened? Can't feel bad. You can't. This baby's gone. And they're presuming that he's passed on, which is sad. Especially in his condition. He's a cute baby. Why would you hurt that? Why would you want to do something to that? And why would you let somebody do that something to that? Regardless if he's doing something to you, it was always a time to get the fuck out of there. Your
Damn
family from
right.
down that part of the area. Here's that.
Get the fuck
You could've
out.
left. But another thing is this. I'm gonna tell you something. A lot of people say, hey, and nobody talks about this. Hey, why didn't she just up and leave? He might have dirt on her. He might have dirt on her. This guy right here looked very manipulative. He may have dirt on this chick. Might have been involved in something. Hell, it might have been something with the brother. Remember, said his brother died of an overdose in the house, but it was suspicious. He might know something and have something over her to where she never left. Either way, man, this whole thing is crazy. They ain't been locked up, what they been like barely 48 hours, and she's making a press tour, and this motherfucker walking around in circles in the goddamn bushes. I show him both the flowers. If the baby ain't found in 48 hours, you don't tell us where he's at, we're going to start pulling teeth out, and we're going to start chopping off fingertips. And somebody going to talk. You can ride or die all you want. And then speaking of ride or dying, man, this right here, I got to say this. Looking at the Jen Soto situation, right? Now she backed a known person that was doing something to a child. And now this chick here, where the child died.
Sick ass people out here.
She took pictures down and got rid of clothing like he never existed. Her heart is just as dark as the guy she was breeding with.
Sure hell is.
You know, I know when people ride or die, you know, it's limits to that. Especially when morals are involved.
Damn right.
Sense. She is stupid as hell, y'all. Seriously.
Dumbass bitch.
She's stupid as hell. He's in his 30s, so is she. She might be old. I think she's older than him.
Yeah, she's older.
And they couldn't put their heads together after this shit happened, which is what I'm about to say is wrong, but they couldn't come up with a better scenario than what they came up with, and looking stupid as hell. That little boy should still be here, and they shouldn't. I'm Stock Market Steve for the Dynamic Reason channel. As always, like, comment, share, and subscribe. How do you have a lawyer and he's not telling you to keep your mouth shut? I don't know any lawyer that ever tells somebody go to the press and start talking.
About 4 p.m. and there are some updates in the Emmanuel Haro case that I just want to go over with you. Now, yesterday, footage went viral that showed Jake on the side of the 60 freeway in the Moreno Valley area with tons of detectives, tons of police, and walking inside this canyon off the side of the freeway, searching for remains. Although there was a lot of mixed messages, Emmanuel's remains have not been found. But let's talk about what Jake was doing there. There's, of course, speculation that he is cooperating with the police and that he flipped on Rebecca. He's trying to protect himself, so he was leading them to his remains. But then, of course, nothing was found. Now, there could be 3 scenarios. One, he truly just does not remember the exact location because it is so vast, so much desert, so much dirt. It would be easy to get confused, and we know that this guy is not meticulous and does not really care about things enough to probably remember the exact location. There's the possibility that he's sending them on a wild goose chase, that he's just kind of playing games with them, toying with them. And then there's a third scenario, which this might be kind of out there, but I've seen it happen